Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mike Glaspie again, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how I passed the PMP exam in less than 4 weeks and on my first try. But before we get started, you'd be really doing me a favor if you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe button so this content can be pushed out to more people. Now, let's get to it. To share a little bit about my background very briefly, I spent over 10 years in the military, and even outside of the military, I ran different positions with different real estate companies. And ultimately, what I didn't realize by the standard of PMP is that almost anything can be considered a project. If it has a definite start and a definite ending, it's a project. And we can break that down and use that as our experience moving forward. So on the way out of the military, I was able to take part of a program that allowed me to pursue the PMP training. So I received all 35 credits that were needed from Syracuse University. And then I just didn't take the test right when I left. So fast forward a couple years later, a couple of buddies of mine were saying, hey man, this PMP thing kind of changed my life, allowed me to get more jobs, and kind of just put me on the map. And I looked back on it and I said, man, I already have the experience. I was already approved for the exam before. Let me just resubmit the application and see how it goes. Resubmitted the application and voila, I was approved to take the exam. Now I just had to do it, which leads me into step number one, which is sign up for the exam. Now, I know that may sound like, well, sign up for the exam, but let's be honest here. A lot of times we have ambitions and dreams and goals that never come to fruition. Why? It's because we never actually committed to them. We never put them on paper. We never forced ourselves to actually pursue it. So the way I look at it is, hey, you sign up for the exam. Now it's on the calendar. Now it really exists. Remember, in order to sign up for the exam, oftentimes you may actually have to pay a fee. Well, okay, cool. I don't want to lose my money. So let's put that fee down and let's get serious about the study. So when you do sign up for the exam, don't sign up for it 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the road, because we're human. We're creatures of habit. A lot of us are going to, just say, oh, hey, it's 6 months away. I don't have to start studying until I'm about 2 months away. And even then, I'm going to half-ass it, right? So be honest with yourself, set a standard for yourself, and go ahead and set that goal to say, a month from now, I'm going to take the exam, I'm going to sign up, and I'm going to commit to the study program. So tip number 2 for me is where it got a little fun. So I've been instructing and consulting and coaching individuals for over 13 years now. But one of the things I understand is that everybody has a different way that they absorb and retain information. Some people learn better just simply from hearing it and they can retain the information. Others, like myself, have a more tactile approach where we have to get our hands on it and go through the repetitions. And then some people have a photographic memory and they can simply just read something and they're good to go. But one of the most effective ways to retain above any individual one is by combining them all together. And so this first method is going to allow you to not only hear it, but allow you to visualize it and see how it works as well. And that's through the almighty YouTube. So there's actually 3 YouTube videos that I specifically watched that made all of the difference in my studying. And I'm going to share them with you right now. So the first one is 200 Agile PMP questions and answers. Now, this is a video made by David McLaughlin, and I will actually go ahead and put the link in the description below. But he walks through 200 different Agile questions on the PMP exam. Now, whether or not they show up on the PMP exam is not the point. It's more about understanding how to read and how to kind of digest those problem sets and think from an Agile manner. And if you guys have been working on the PMP for a while, then you may have noticed that over the past 2 or 3 years, the questions have transitioned from much more of that predictive and iterative model now into an Agile model during the testing process. So it's really important to understand the thought process behind the Agile approach. And this YouTube video covers 200 examples of questions that you may see on the exam. And yeah, it's quite a long video, but this is something that you can listen to in the background, or if you're watching it, you can see his thought process as he circles key points of questions, strikes out answers that are just irrelevant or have nothing to do with the problem set, and then how he kind of goes through choosing between some of those better choices of answers, which we all love, right? 2 similar questions, which one is the better answer to get a passing grade? He works through it all though, and it really helps. And it really helped me. It really helped me understand the thought process, which I was able to use on the exam. Now, the second video I recommend is PMBOK Guide 6th edition, Process Explained by Ricardo Vargas. Now, this video goes through the entire process of project management from start all the way to finish. And to be honest, understanding the process is probably about 90% of the ability to pass the exam. For example, a lot of the exam questions may say something along the lines of, this project is in this phase. For example, the execution phase. Here's the scenario or situation. What should the project manager do next? Now that's the kind of tough problem, because as you're reading through the questions, you'll see some of them say, all of them could be correct, right? You know that every single one of them are the right answer and the project manager must do them. But the question is next. And so if we understand the process and we understand what phase we're in, now we can say, okay, well, chronologically or in order, then this must be the right answer. Oh man, that saved me a lot on some of these questions here. So this video not only explains the process, but he draws this beautiful diagram showing the process, showing what phases are actually simultaneous, right? Or adjacent. When we look at the PMBOK guide, and if anybody's read it or kind of pours through it, you'll see some of these phases are going to go chapter 7, section 1, chapter 1, section 8, so forth and so on. But what we don't realize is sometimes it could be the 4th chapter and the 7th chapter, they actually belong in the same segment. And so this video describes all of that and helps you kind of paint a bigger picture of what belongs where. So as you're studying, you can kind of put those two pieces of the puzzle together and get a full understanding of each phase in the process. And now for the third video. This video essentially takes the entire PMBOK guide and makes it an audio visual form. So I don't like to really read dense books, any type of textbook essentially, which is what the PMBOK guide is. It's kind of hard to digest. Oftentimes you get distracted, you kind of lose yourself in some of the vernacular, and they're sometimes dry reading. So me personally, I'd like to hear it being explained by somebody who understands it in a practical sense, and also seeing it visually via diagrams and real world examples. That allows me to kind of put the density of the textbook with the real world experience, and allows me to kind of come up with my own scenarios and my own reasoning behind how to solve these questions. And so this next video is the PMP Certification Full Course by Ed Rica. Side note, it took me a long time to figure out how to actually pronounce the channel's name. It's spelled like Eureka, but has a D in the middle. And I kind of put it together. It's an education channel. So Ed Rica, hopefully. But it doesn't matter. Here's the video, and the link will be in the description as well. Now, this video is 12 hours long. I don't think anybody will make it through the full 12 hours, but at least what it allowed me to do was kind of hear the processes by phase, sequentially, in a way that I can actually absorb it and retain it. Now, the best part about this is, as you're going through your journey of studying, you can go to that section and have somebody explain the material directly from the PMBOK, but in a more digestible way. Which leads me to tip number 3, which is take as many practice exams as possible. Now, for me personally, practice exams are the tactile approach that I was discussing. I enjoy that. I enjoy the hands-on experience. I'm able to see exactly how much time I have per question. I can see how the questions will be laid out, how the format of the answers are going to be. Is it multiple choice, or is it select 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5? Side note, you will see both. Either way, it allows me to understand how I want to approach those, how I want to take my time on those, and if I should skip them and come back, so forth and so on. So I used exactly what the PMI offered. If you go to the PMI website, they offer a program called the PMI Study Hall. It's roughly about $49, but this will cover the entire curriculum of the PMBOK in a much more interactive and user-friendly way. It also provides 2 full-length practice exams, as well as several other practice exams. They're kind of mini 15 questions, 20 questions, and somewhat over 120 practice problems. So by going in, what I highly recommend is, if you use that or a different program, go ahead and take the full length exam first, the full 175 questions, 4-hour exam. Now, the reason why I say take it first is because that's going to be your baseline for knowledge. What do you already know about project management? Do you need to study something different? Are you strong in a certain area? At the end of it, what's going to happen is it's going to display all the answers that you got wrong, as well as what functionalities or categories they belong to. So for me, I was always great in the human knowledge aspect of it, in the people aspect, but the business processes I tended to struggle with. Now, after you go through the exam and you kind of ID'd your weak points, continue to go through that curriculum, or you can choose to skip majority of the curriculum and only focus on your weak points. But as you're going through it, stop every now and then and take another mini practice exam. Take some more of the practice problem sets. And once you get all the way through the curriculum, what I did was the day before the exam, I went ahead and took the second full-length practice exam, 4 hours, 175 questions. This essentially allowed me to test myself before the real exam came. And I'm gonna share a little secret with you guys. The highest I received on any of those practice exams was a 57%. That's not passing. It's pretty bad. But I can say that those questions on that PMI study hall were significantly harder than what the exam had to offer. Also, in the exam, you'll take a total of 180 questions, and there's 5 questions that they won't account for. So you might get lucky and say, hey, some of these difficult questions, they don't count against me. But on the practice exams, that's not the case. Every single question counts towards or against you. But don't fret, don't fear, because on the day of the exam, not only did I pass, but I scored above target. So you can see that the PMI study hall material is much tougher than the actual exam was, at least in my personal experience. So I feel confident to say if you can score highly on that type of material, you should have no problem passing the exam on exam day. And I got a little bonus for you. So one thing that I did personally was I printed off the project management process groups. An example like this here, you can find it on Google. You might already have one, but I studied this for about 10 to 15 minutes every single day. This goes back to that second video that I talked about, that Pinbook guide and process overview that shows you every step of the way what belongs where. As I mentioned, most of the exam is just understanding the process and the order and the sequence that it comes in, because you're going to see several real world scenarios where they're saying, what does the project manager do next? What should the project manager have done to avoid this outcome? And by understanding what the process groups look like, what order they work in, what comes before what causes a certain reaction, you'll be able to kind of fly through the exam, at least by crossing out the incorrect answers, which, to be quite honest, is half the battle. So make sure that's one of the things on your list, is printing out something like that and having it on display so you can simply go by and review it for 5-10 minutes a day and just get more familiar with it. If it's been a while since you've taken a standardized exam or test, then here go a few different tips just to kind of have in your back pocket. So typically when you look at a question, you review the answers, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 answers that are just not right. They're too extreme, right? They may say an absolute, like it's always this way or it's never this way. When you look at absolutes, you got to always remember in an agile approach, you have to be flexible, right? So you immediately should cross out the ones that you know instinctually are incorrect. Just by doing that, you're going to increase your chances of picking the right answer, even if you do any, mini, miny, mo, which is not recommended. But still, you get my point there. And the second testing technique is, as you go through, it's okay to skip. It's okay to mark for review. Just understand that when your review time comes, you want to make sure that you're going back through those methodically and answering when and where you can. Try not to hesitate too long on a question that you don't know, because remember, the timer is always clicking. Now, when I finished right on time. I maybe had 3 seconds left before I had to submit, because I went back and I reviewed a lot of the questions that I skipped just to make sure that I was giving it my best attempt forward. And lucky for me, it actually worked in my favor. So there you have it, guys. It's 3 tips and a bonus of how I passed the PMP exam in less than 4 weeks and on my first try. So if you guys found any value in this video, then go ahead and hit that like button and the subscribe button as well. And then if you have any questions about the exam, go ahead and put them in the comments below. Now, to be clear, I can't answer any questions directly to the exam, but I'll help point you in the right direction the best I can. And if there's any other videos or topics you would like discussed, let me know down below and we'll be sure to cover them. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.